Hi everyone, welcome back to a video that I've tried to make about 50 times, but finally got the list completely down. Well, until my opinions change in a week. But, since it's Christmas and a dear friend of me keeps asking me to make this list, here are my top 10 favorite Pokemon. Now before I get into it, Pokemon's kind of a weird franchise to me, because I really like it, but I have some weird picks. So with all of that, let's get into it. So, I have never really liked legendary Pokemon. I think by the time you get them in the game, my team's always fully set in stone at that point, and I just kind of feel cheap for using them. However, this Shenron looking silly guy changes everything for me. Not only is he this badass dragon, but the story of the two legendaries basically not wanting the smoke from him is the coolest thing to me. For whatever reason, Rayquaza has always just stood out as one of the coolest Pokemons in my opinion, and easily deserves a spot on this list. However, because I'm not a huge fan of legendaries, I had to put him at number 10. Added on a Mega Evolution that is so cool, and obviously you have an amazing Pokemon. But with that, let's move on to number 9. So speaking of my friend, he is the main reason I got into Pokemon games. While I played a broken copy of Crystal and Sapphire when I was younger, I never really got into the games until he played them with me. So, did that story have a point? Yes. It's because the same friend also got me Shining Pearl, and on that team was my old Tick, who was such a pain to get, however, she was so worth it. I love the story of like the ugly duckling turning into this like beautiful creature, but really to me this is just the better Magikarp. I'm not a huge fan of Gyarados, but to have something like this is amazing. I also have a giant plush of this Pokemon, so for all of those reasons I had to put it on the list. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but basically everything I just said also applies to the next Pokemon. However, I do not have a giant plush, and I've used this one a few more times, and that's Mismagius. Not only do I love the design, but the theme of like a ghost witch Pokemon just is super cool to me. Everything about it, from the colors to the moves, I just love. I sadly don't have a whole lot to say, and the only reason Mismagius beat out my Otic is because I've used it a couple more times. But besides that, let's move on to number 7. Small fact about me is I really like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I have since my childhood. So when this Beast of Aggron shows up looking like Orokusaki, and also having a fantastic evolution line, I can't help but love him. This is also a staple on my Sapphire team, but you can just see why. Also, to boot, it has such an awesome Mega that is just Super Shredder. This has always been a Pokemon that I really like, so I knew he would be on this list. But a few do beat him out, so let's move on. I have never been a huge fan of Pikachu. I think Raichu is cool and Pichu is cute, but as a mascot, Pikachu has never been my favorite. However, as Pokemon went on, we got introduced to a secondary mascot, and that's Eevee. I love the idea of a Pokemon that you can make really whatever you need it to be. Yes, I know it's basic, but the question was never will Eevee be on the list, the question was which evolution would. And after thinking, I have to go with Leafeon. Not only do I think Leafeon is underrated, but in my playthrough of Sword and Shield, my Leafeon was a monster for no reason, and made me really appreciate it. By far my favorite grass type Pokemon too. So mix all of that together and you easily get a number 6. But with that, let's get in my top 5. This might be the Pokemon with the most interesting story behind it. But when I was younger, I had a broken battery in my copy of Sapphire, so I could never play it super far into the game. However, there was always one Pokemon that I wanted more than anything else, and that's Ralts. For whatever reason, I just was unable to catch one, and after seeing Wally catch it, I wanted one even more. So, cut to a few years later, me and my friend are playing Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, Not only did I find a female Ralts really early on, but I caught her with one Pokeball. Ever since that day, Gardevoir has been one of my favorites. I love how elegant she looks, and the Mega goes even further with that. I've never sadly had one, but I also love the shiny for her. The hardest part of this was not putting Gardevoir higher, but she's always just been one of those Pokemon I want to use every single time. And with that, let's move on with number 4. The more and more I write this list, the more I realize I probably sound like a furry, but my number 4 Pokemon is Ninetales. For me, I usually like 2 different kinds of Pokemon, awesome looking monsters or elegant creatures, and Ninetales is both of them. I'm not a huge fan of fire types usually either, so one of them being this high on the list makes it something special. I can't really explain it, but I love the idea of mythical creatures being on my team. Oh, also, Naruto. Add on a beautiful shiny and I can't help but love this Pokemon. But with that, let's get in my top 3. Black and White might be some of the best Pokemon games out there. However, sadly, I'm not a fan of them, for a really weird reason. My team. I wasn't a huge fan of the starter, and everything else I picked up was just okay in my eyes. It's nothing special. However, there were 2 Pokemon that stood out from among them, Lavani and Zebstrika. Now, my favorite animals are zebras, so this Pokemon was a must on my team. While I may not have the best memories of Black and White, I will never forget my boy and him beating the Elite Four for me. I do wish he got a better evolution, but I still love this Pokemon for everything it is. And with that, let's move on. Like I said before, I'm not really a fan of Pikachu, but Game Freak is, so we got a lot of clones of this Pokemon. I really don't like most of these, however one stood out to me, and that's Mimikyu. You have a Pokemon making fun of the fact that everyone likes Pikachu, and on top of that throw in a sad backstory of a creature who just wants to be loved but is incapable of it, and you got something really special to me. Also, fun story, I had never played Sun and Moon, so I never actually used this Pokemon until Sword and Shield came out, and in that game Mimikyu was my starter. Like, as soon as I could, I traded whatever starter I picked for a Mimikyu egg, and that was how I beat the game, with that as my starter. It was a really fun time, and ever since then, Mimikyu became my second favorite Pokemon with no competition. But who's number 1? Honestly, this is kind of a weird pick for me, but Blastoise is my all-time favorite Pokemon. I don't have a story or anything with this one, but a giant blue turtle with cannons on his back is everything I have always wanted. This evolution line is weird, it's weird, but I always love this Pokemon for it. I think it's by far the best starter out of the original 3, and every time this Pokemon is available, I use it. Even when I was playing X and Y, I didn't know you could get one, and I picked Greninja. And then I still picked Blastoise. I don't care if I have a water type, obviously, or if I used it a million times. Blastoise just holds a special place in my heart. Also, Squirtle Squad for life. Everyone has that one Pokemon that they love and will always be special to them. And for me, that's Blastoise. So that's my list. I hope you all enjoyed, and go ahead and leave yours down below. I would love to see what some of your favorite Pokemon are. But with that, have a great New Year's everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!